Okay, so here we are in the backyard. Sorry I couldn't find anywhere more interesting. Something more three-dimensional would have been good. I can't quite get around the side of my house, would have been good to work with a curve, but there's some geometric and artifice anomalies in the windows and things that we can play a bit around with. I wanted to look specifically at projection mapping with live content and how we can draw all of these things with Unity and VDMX together. Software we're going to use is Mad Mapper. It's great software for you to use regardless of who you are. It's very simple, and it will help us to play around with ideas in a really simple way. So this is the interface. Now it's all kind of graphical, so you need to kind of just practice with it. This is your main projector, and I'll move it over onto the projector which is shining on the house, and then I will so that I haven't really changed anything here yet, but I'll go through all the different settings. So this projector window is here, this black one, and if I just whatever item we're bringing in, so that could be video or data or something like that, and to get it started we want to work with kind of checkerboard. So it's got a 4x4 checkerboard or a 8x8, and you just double click it and it'll send that item in here, and you can zoom out and have a look at that. Over here you can make a mask or a way that particular bit of content is distributed across the window, across the projector. So you can see that this is the item the image we're bringing in, and this is where it is displayed on the screen. Now what we need to do is make this projector make this video window over here project full screen. As you can see, it's just sitting there, in the middle of the backyard. So to do that, we'll move over to projectors, and we'll go to our main projector, and just have a look at how it all works. Optima 1080, so it knows what it is. That's all good. We can scale it out, but that doesn't necessarily make it full screen. Should be some controls here. Full screen mode, cool. Now the whole screen, the whole projection screen here is filled with black, but the document still stays in the middle. So up here we can click on to see our inputs and their outputs. So we can click again on this. So we click on the quad or the square here, and we can stretch it out to fit the edges of the projection. Again, we need to zoom out. So these items are all the different shapes that you use, and over here is the inputs. Now as we start to use practical examples, it'll make more sense. But if we just click this out to the edge, and it's really great software in the way that it lets you just quickly click and sync up the area that you want the projection to be in. So now we have the whole house kind of covered in light. Now all this tells us is where the light is currently hitting the house, and it's fraught in a number of different ways, right? So it's going everywhere. Anywhere there's a shadow of the content, it's no good. But we can bring content in. So what we might do is set up some zones where we want to project. Now the projector's kind of coming from the left-hand side here across the house, so some of these bars and stuff aren't terribly in the way. And so what I can do is I can just carefully arrange these projection areas to fit some of, say, the window and things like that. And the trick is just to get each corner very carefully and just move it carefully into position so that it covers, say, that window there. And there you are. It looks like it needs a little adjustment down the bottom. Yeah, just to get all of the white area of the window in. Now you can add different images and different channels to the work. So we can add a new quad. And this quad this is quad 2, this could have a different image. So this could have data that we bring in ourselves. So let's start to bring some things in. Alright, here are some loops that I made, and so we'll bring a few of these in, and we just throw them into movies. Now you can bring anything in you want. Let's bring a bunch of these in. They're all sorts of different things, and it's pretty dark night, so we should be able to make the most out of a lot. Now if we double click that, that content will appear wherever this content is, and so the other quads will also appear. They're just overlapped. So we can go in here and say, well, we want this quad to appear over here in the window in there, and we can then shrink that down to fit into that window. I don't know if the resolution will fit that. Now this particular object doesn't have very hard edges, and we can also turn off these various quads. So we can turn the other one off, and we can put this one in this window. So I can make this go to the edge of the building and not go over the edge. So I don't know, it doesn't really matter if it goes over the edge in this particular context, but in others where you want to map it very specifically, it would. So in this context, I want to map, say, a bigger image onto the building, and I'm just struggling to find the edges of the frame, so because it's got a kind of a blurred edge. Yeah. So what I would do is flick back to the checkerboard and just insert that in, and then figure out where I want it to go. So what I want it to do is to be perfectly aligned to this part of the house and down to the very bottom of the house and coming down straight. Now what the checkerboard is great for is to figuring out if your projection is straight. So here you can see if those squares are straight, not from the screen position, but from what you actually see. Then you know if that projection is, ratios and relative scaling are okay. So now we've mocked up that, but we've also got this other quad there if we want it, and we turn this one off, and we've got that quad too. So we've got the window and that, and you can try out different things. So we can say, well, let's try something quickly into this quad, and all we're going to do is double click on a clip, and then it will play, and then it will play. Oh, we did the wrong one. So it'll play into the window. Now you can see what it is on my screen. It's kind of this Dalek red thing, but as far as the actual image goes, there, not so interesting. So let's try the other one out, the bigger image, and see how that looks. Could really go and move that bin, couldn't I? But anyway, not to worry. So if we click on quad 2, we can see a few things. One, it's doing a kind of default cropping of the image. Now the image crop and the actual image you show are totally different. This crop is how much of the image it will fit into that space. So if I move it over to the side, it doesn't change the position of the image, but it fits more of that image in. So now we've got these kind of expanding image on the edge of the house. Now I've already tapered the edges of this, so I might try and find one, but also I'm going to move that damn silly bin. You can see me for a minute on the screen in my shorts. So what we're able to do with this software is to quickly make sure that there's no spill image, also that we can quickly change images, so from one image to the other, and so effectively you can create a kind of performance of different items and objects as you see fit. Now it's only as illusionistic as I make it, and I can zoom and move the image a bit as well. So if I want something to look like it's swirling towards you, I just change the area that the image is actually cropped into. Like so. It's very basic. It's not a very basic tool. It's a simple tool that you can do a lot with, because you can bring in anything you want, including cameras from live feeds. So I could bring in my Face HD camera into there, and then I appear on the house. I don't know if you can see it. I've got the camera next to me, but the closer I appear to the screen, the more you can see I appear on the thing. And then if I want to, I can zoom in. Very cool. Now if I want myself to appear in the window, then I can do that. Now I'm going to expand the window and show you some of the effects that MadMapper can do. And I guess I could illuminate myself a bit more by using my phone to do so. Now if I want to appear in the window, I turn off that one screen, I go to quad number 2, Facebook HD, and I need to click on that clip, and now I appear only in the window, right, like a ghost. I'll only be there and there. Can you see me on the camera? I've got the camera just behind me, so I can't quite see what you can see. Okay, so that gives you a lot of options, but in the case of something like this where it's a bit, maybe it's not quite as bright as you want it to be, because you've made the footage but you didn't realize it's going to be a long way away, or it's going to be a surface that wouldn't work really well. You've got some options to change the footage as long as you click on the right piece. So you've got these different shapes here and a lot of options, but I want to just focus on. So one thing you can do is you can take colors out. So I can remove red, green, blue. I can turn the opacity up and down, so you can bring in multiple items over the top of other items if you wanted to. So you can create a kind of composition, an opacity of different items. We can make very specific shapes here by drawing around them and masking areas off. Here we can create a mask, so we could crop out areas within the shape that we didn't want. So if we didn't want, say, that bin to appear, then we could do that, and then we press return, is it? And then you can see that I've actually cut. I don't know if you can see that. I'm just going to go to the camera and turn. Yeah, I think you can. So what I've done there is I've cropped out a section of the piece, and I can go in there and I can edit the mask again so that you can make sure that light doesn't appear on particular sections. Now I haven't really prepared exactly where that might, where it might happen here, but an example might be that I want to add in that other mask, which is the entire area. I want to add, let's go for something more colorful. Yep, so we'll bring in this library of more colorful graphics into MadMapper. Let me just throw it into the clips. You can have folders and stuff if you want. If we just bring these in, dump them into the movies, might take a minute, and then we'll scroll through them, and it doesn't really happen until you double click them. But if I was to double click on this particular piece, and then I turn both of these quads on, then I can add the other quad on top of it. So that we've got something happening in the window and the sort of building expansion coming in behind it. And so you can literally play whatever you want, so we can expand that out, shrink it down, depends what you want. Of course, you can see here the crop works, because if the crop here is the right ratio, then that'll fit just fine. So while we're just sitting here, we can bring anything into that, but we preview it first, so we'll have a look at what might work. So 2 patterns, 1 pattern in the window, 1 pattern in the door, and Bob's your uncle, you've got projection mapping. Now, I could go into, you can see anything about the whole house, you can start to crop and make a specific pattern or shape, and make a really daggy kind of work where, things kind of warp and stuff like that. One simple thing that we could do is, instead of having it across the whole, if we wanted to use that whole space of the window, what we can do is get rid of quad number 1. And because we've got these top edges, we could just make a bit of perspective into a kind of a porthole. So we could say, well, what if we had like the image disappearing downwards in that kind of respect, and then we copy and paste the quad. And then we should be able to just flip this one around, flip this one around, and then everything kind of disappears into a kind of, into a zone, like so. And then I guess if we make it, can we grab those edges? Yeah. Kind of make it like that. Cute. And of course, you can just change whatever that clip is just by flicking through them. And not everything will look very good. And every now and then you'll come across something really groovy. Alrighty. So, that's MadMapper. In simple terms, it allows you to put your video, so if it allows you to put your video flat on a wall and make it line up really nicely. Yeah, and to do that really quickly without any spill, making it look like a really pro job. Simple things that you can do that you might want to use it for is it can go across multiple projectors. So if we had one projector in one corner and one projector for another, you can make you can say, so if you ever thought about it, if you want to cover a three-dimensional object and the light doesn't cover it, you can have multiple projectors. So we only have one here, and that's the area that it covers, and we can see where our item fits. But you could have multiple, like 10 projectors, and an image can go across each one of them, and it can even blend in. So if you've got this item here, and you want it to, say, blend into the same object, right, that's over here, and you don't want that harsh line, you can click on the object and say soft edge, and basically pick which edge you want it to softly apply to. So in this case it would be the left side, and the edge of that will slow this down a bit. Soften. No, it's going to, it's around the wrong way, so it's going to be the right width. And we can see that that will soften, and we just need to check out the way that it blends. So blend over, blend into, add, over. So if you've used Photoshop much and you blend it via adding, then it blends perfectly into the other one. You can go over, and then we should be able to use the soft edge here. It's sort of blending, but maybe it needs to do it more gooder. I got the wrong one. It's getting black on that edge, but it's not actually getting more transparent. So in terms of getting it to be transparent on the side, I'm not sure, but certainly blending modes like that, such as over and add, will make your items blend in perfectly to each other. So anything quick that you need to do, like mask out a little bit of an item so that it's not, say, over those chairs, and we can quickly mask that. And then you can see that the chairs are now not covered in the kind of shape, although I haven't done all of them. And that might be cool because it might look like the image is coming from behind. But simple things like flipping the images around in terms of their orientation, you can do quickly. These items aren't. And then trying out different clips really quickly from your list. So there's some light. Is there anything we'd actually want to use? Yeah, pinball, some graphics. All right. So that is all for MadMapper. But where things get really exciting is when we can go back to VDMX or back to Unity and start to feed those things in. So what I'll do is I'll just delete these quads, or this one's pretty simple. We can keep it there, keeping that complex map that we've got, and then using it to feed content from VDMX and Unity directly.